of the top bananas. All right, should be live by now. Good evening. Do you think we could get some people in here to ask some questions? Read the description. I want to leave a comment as well that has the link inside of it, so you can actually participate. I haven't been live for a minute. And I've had a slight issue with being backlit everywhere that I go. So I might move. Oosh. I'm using a ring light that doesn't have a light working on it. Hello. I have transformed this room into like my little den now. But I'm just waiting for a new Hoover because I haven't been able to vacuum the carpet in about 2 months or more. How's that? Still having issues with being backlit. That seems reasonable. So there's nobody here. So there's no point me even starting speaking because there's nobody here. So I need people to join this live stream so I can just say a few things, because there's just been so much coverage of Glenn Maxwell in the news that I felt moved to say something. Hello, one person. I'm trying to get some people here so that I can actually begin speaking. And there is one person here, so hello. If you have any questions, please put them in the chat, because I've written quite a lengthy description to say why I'm here, what I want to speak about. And at the top of that description is a link to a 60 minutes documentary that was made in 1988 about the modelling agency run by Jean-Luc Brunel. Had huge ties with Jeffrey Epstein. I think he may have later bought it. It was called Carine Model Agency. He turned it into MC Squared, oddly. And the reports from 1988 were that many of the girls who were still teenagers at the time were requested to go to parties, and if they refused, they actually wouldn't get any more work. And they were being exploited financially, and then they would go to these parties and they would be expected to sleep with various men who they would never see again or speak to. No exchanging of numbers. This was nothing meaningful. And often they were not compliant and they were drugged. They were introduced to cocaine. Some of them used to use the cocaine, but others were given drugs that completely knocked them out unconscious. Hello. And so, see, somebody's here. That led me to reflect on my own upbringing, because as it suggests in the description, and as I've said before, my own dad was molesting me as a very young child from the age of, I think, 6 or possibly even younger, up until the age of about 9 or 10. And the long-term consequences of that suggest to me the creation of basically mind control, sex slaves. Some people call it MK Ultra monarch programming, and that's pretty good description really of what it is. I also repetitively read stories such as The Beauty and the Beast when very young, like to a point where, you know, even as a young child, I was questioning why I had a parent reading me the same story every night for such a long period of time. And because when you raise such a young child to accept with an ACC, accept to be sexually molested by an adult, then that creates an ongoing situation without any boundaries with men as an adult. And in terms of like what people often refer to as triggers, a man can entirely use a tactile as a trigger on a female body to cause submission. And I think that this documentary demonstrates very well that young women who were not raised in that way took quite a lot of persuasion to have sex with these men, Whereas somebody in my position, if I'd been in the same situation as they were, I think at that age I was actually being psychiatrically profiled and drugged, but incarcerated and so on because of various reasons, but with my dad behind it. But somebody like myself in the same situation just didn't have any boundaries, didn't require drugging necessarily. So I just thought that was something that I would point out as to be why, molestation of children isn't just a one-off event. It's not just an incident that happens. Maybe it happens multiple times, and then that equates then for grooming. That's not a one-off event that might traumatize somebody, but it's actual conditioning through that person's upbringing in their childhood. So I feel like I'm stating the obvious, but I think that sometimes people do miss with this case with Glenn Maxwell that a lot of the children who were involved, and many of whom probably are not alive to speak today, um, were extremely young. Like, not everybody was even a teenager. I was under the age of 10 when I was procured by Glenn Maxwell. And as I've said as well in the description, because of quantum entanglement, which is something like people with a bit more brains than me, or maybe a bit more tolerance for learning, ought to look into that, because on a physical and spiritual level, like, this is why rape is like such a bad thing. And when you do that with children, like, it just doesn't make any sense to me that you would try and rehabilitate, or that you'd want to give them lifetime imprisonment, or any of these things. It just seems to me that a death penalty is absolutely necessary for the rape of a child, and I don't really understand why anyone would argue otherwise. But it seems to me that other countries have adopted this, but in the UK we've been really, really slow to like even have anyone argue effectively for it. But if you think about the consequences of this kind of abuse on the economy and the cost of like housing people in prison, we really need a strong deterrent to make sure that people are not committing these crimes, and to clean up the mess of the ones that already have committed these crimes against children, and to basically like effect something, um, which is like actually meaningful to a victim of this, to be able to move on with their lives. I'm not myself like the most adept at even describing this. Like, it seems to be like somebody needs to undertake an academic paper of some kind to argue this case, really. As somebody that's suffered a lot of temporal lobe head injuries since childhood, like well into adulthood, um, at the hands of abusers, like, I'm really not in the best position to be arguing for this case. But with Glenn Maxwell potentially getting a pardon, or even looking at 20 years for me, there's no doubt in my mind that she serves no legitimate purpose to anyone on earth, and it doesn't serve me as one of her victims to have her incarcerated for the next 20 years in any way. Like, it doesn't serve me at all. So hello to Kirby's 100 in the chat. I just see like no one's really here at all. There's one person watching, a couple more people have been in and out. So it makes my job as a live streamer really, really difficult. Hello, another person's come in. So if you have any questions, if you might like peruse the description and just put some questions in the chat, because it will really help me to keep this stream going. Otherwise, I'm done, basically. Looking around for refreshment. So, because it's been pretty difficult, like, there's been so much coverage of these people, Trump, Epstein, Maxwell, in the news recently. It's been like, it's not been nice. I'm not. So I believe in vampires. Yeah, like, I think these people can definitely, through actually raping children, they can, like, effectively try and drain your life energy. So I suppose that's a type of vampirism. And I think even electronically through, that people can have their energy like potentially harvested. Yeah, I think that so like not literal. Well, yeah, I mean, it is literal, but not, yeah, it's the same situation. It's interesting that book, that story, right? don't know the name of the author. I should know. Uh, is there any more questions? Like, I've been a bit withdrawn recently as well. Like, and today I was like, well, just get in the shower. Or actually had a bath. And it kind of turned out all right. Just a lot of alone time. Trying to sell my home to raise money for surgery to sort my pelvis out, which was left in a mess from a surgery in 2019. It's like I'm only on purple bricks. I'm not with an agency, but I need to go with an agency as well. Like, it's the only way I can fund an operation. The NHS just treat a lot of people very, very poorly. It's the best I can say about that. There's another word for this, vampirism. Like, to put it nicely, symbiotic relationship, but I think vampirism is probably a better description than symbiosis. Um, as a victim, you're not gaining anything from being in the hands of a predator. And as the description says, what I was saying earlier about the way my dad raised me just made it possible for me to just be passed from hand to hand as a young adult. And like trying to adopt rules around chastity after that. Like, a lot of people are not even familiar with that term anymore. Like, it's just like super impossible to then move into a religious community and like date with chastity, as in like no sex before marriage. It's like, especially in that environment as well, a lot of men, like, they see your vulnerability in ways like that you think you've moved on or something, but they're able to exploit vulnerability really easily. And like, it's really sickening to me, I should say that. Like, that I could be passed around, literally hand to hand, and that trigger words are not necessary. It's just literally all in the trigger points and tactile stuff. Do you think real vampires have bad breath? I hope not. They do literally drink blood, don't they? Like, harvesting for adrenochrome. And I'm not entirely sure about whether my genes contributed to Glenn Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein attempting to kidnap me when I was like 11. Like, possibly for their interest in human cloning and a dream, like, harvesting blood, adrenochrome. Like, I have Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, and it's really painful. I'm actually shifting around so much because I have arthritis in my sacrum as well, which makes it a little difficult to be normal physically, but without wriggling around. But we, like, people with Ehlers-Danlos and probably other painful conditions, we have high levels of adrenaline in related to living with pain. So I would imagine that would have made me a candidate for bloodletting or having babies out of me to, do these despicable things. But I can't comment on their breath, Kirby's. I've never drunk blood myself. I should imagine it's quite warm. And endometriosis would be another delightful genetic problem that you might want in a sex slave. You never know what kind of babies they could be getting designed right now. So it's quite heavy conversation. Like, it's why it's been difficult, because there's so much press about this at the moment. And like, people like me, because I'm not the only child that was involved in Hampstead Theatre, and I don't mean the theatre in Hampstead, I mean in Swiss Cottage in the 1980s, like 86, 87. Like, I was not the only child there, but we don't have criminal cases because we were too young at the time of the crimes, apparently. I mean, the FBI took all the videos and the DVDs, so they probably had evidence of it, and then they could name perpetrators. But like, honestly, I think, I'm just one of probably thousands. When people refer to this case of human trafficking, they talk about 17, 18, 19, 20, 21-year-olds. I know there were a lot of those victims, but then you're ignoring the fact that there were so many children that passed through the hands of these people, and because we were passing through these people's hands, we were passing to other people like royalty, um, uber rich people that had to spend money to be able to have sex with other people's children. So, this just goes to show the depths of human depravity. But, this is where these people's heads are at. And this is why Trump will not unseal documents or really talk candidly about the case, because he's highly involved in the entire operation, as I'm sure Keir Starmer is, and members of the British royal family have been implicated. So, it's not likely that my story is like going to, or mine or anyone else's, regardless of what age we were at the time, is really going to get the justice that it requires. Considering what I've stated, I think the like the relevant penalty is, there's just very little chance, honestly. So, and if Glenn is pardoned, wow, and it's just, that will be a complete smack in the face to anyone that's been within 10 yards of her. Any more questions for me? It's difficult to just be able to speak on this on the spot, even without like another human being to essentially connect with. Like, but I have really got no other recourse to speak about this. Having a criminal case, too young at the time, and I know one other person's name, but I've not gone to Facebook to speak to her because it's just something I can't even take on. Like, my health is not strong enough. I'm not able to position myself in any kind of victor position, like spearheading anything, because my own health is completely wrecked, where it's been neglected for years and years. So, you know, all right, well, I will go. I'll just see if I go get a drink, see if anyone comes to say anything. Well, there's nobody here, so if you watched this all the way to the end and you got here later, thank you. Yes, I've done my hair and makeup. I'll make a bit of effort, huh? But I really hope somebody will take me up on this and create an academic paper as to why it's necessary as a deterrent, and like a valid punishment for said crimes. I wish I had it in myself to write it all down. Kirby's, you look pretty. Thanks, Kirby's. Amazing effort. Got my teeth in and everything. Fabulous. Well, I shall go. Thanks for being here. It did drop down to 0 being here. So I'm just assuming there's one person now. It says 1. 1, 1, 1. All right. Well, have a good time. And, I don't really even want to say keep this story alive, but I think we have to say that. I think we really have to say that and somehow put pressure on these people to enact the death penalty. Somehow. Like, it's like there's no drugging, monitoring, tracking, castration, or lifetime imprisonment that's going to help me out. No amount of money, even. But at least we would save some money by not keeping these people fed and kept for 20 plus years, or in many cases, just 2 or 3 years. All right, fabulous. Bye bye. Thank you for being here.